Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years where no question is a bad question. I'm Rachel Richards, journalist, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley, mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 2 teenagers and a 20-year-old.
Still having to think about that one.
God.
Well, welcome back, Susie. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Looking tanned. I'm sorry I haven't had you on the show recently. I keep reading brilliant books and articles and wanting to talk with the author, and then they say yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I'm just using this as a way to talk to as many brilliant people as possible. And now my girls are old enough to have on the show too, so they have some great feedback. Not all of it goes my way, but you know.
No, I think it's amazing. I haven't written a book, so I've
but that's you're very valuable. Very valuable. Today we're going to talk about how we cope when our teens don't get what they want or that they've been striving for. And we have some listener questions. And I thought, let's just mop it all up.
Yeah,
shall we?
brilliant.
One listener has asked for help with her 13-year-old daughter who has no friends. The mum is really struggling with her own emotions around this and isn't sleeping, which is so painful.
Yeah.
Being there, hello.
Yeah.
How do we help our kids through their pain and also cope with our own emotions without spiraling too? We'll talk about that. I also have a mum whose 9-year-old daughter has become very self-conscious and silent around her, and she believes it's related to body changes. So she's obviously really tuned in to her kids and has been trying lots of methods, but so far she's been unsuccessful.
Okay.
First, have you got a nugget of wisdom from your own life that you can share with us?
Oh, I'm not sure it's of wisdom, but I've got a nugget. So in my life, I've had various people, I won't give names, that have struggled with giving apologies. So saying sorry is really important to me. And I know I'm not alone in that. And my kids know this. So we have it's just an unspoken thing, like just say sorry and we'll clear it up and then it's done. And it's just come up a few times lately and in different ways. So I just have been pondering a bit on it. I fell out with my daughter last night and we really properly fell out, which we don't always do. We don't often do that, but we did. It happens. It's life. And then she texted me today and said sorry, and we'll talk about it later. But it's like already I'm like, okay, we're good. It's just so important. But then how you say sorry is really important as well, isn't it? So we've also been laughing about it because my twins fell out in a bantery way, but they got sort of bickery and a little bit annoyed with each other, which is also completely normal. And then I heard my son sort of apologizing to his sister, which they do. Like if they've wronged each other, they will apologize, which is amazing. But the apology he gave in this particular instance was, I'm really sorry, but you didn't. And I was in the background and went, hang on a minute. That's not an apology. That basically you're going, I'm really sorry, but it's your fault.
Yeah.
But you did this and this and this. So really it's all on you still. And we laughed about it and joked and sort of translated it back. And I gave him some other options that he could say and he repeated them back parrot fashion. But I think that's an important thing. You can't just say sorry. No. It has to be a proper apology. So I had an occasion with him before that where I had been in the wrong, and I suddenly realized. So I just went up to him and went, I'm really sorry, I was wrong and you were right. And then I walked out and he was a bit sort of like, oh, thanks, Mum. And it was gone. There's no buts.
Yes. And I love that. And we have a similar culture. And I think, and I actively say sorry in front of my kids to my husband if I do something wrong, because I think when they see that, it makes them, it's such low stakes. And in the house I grew up in, this was not an option. No. My parents never apologized for anything. And it's really damaging because it really destroys relationship or trust.
It's trust and it's respect. And it's like...
Because they can see you. They know that you've done something wrong.
Taking responsibility is really, really important.
Yeah, I love that. And, my nugget is about how it's never too late.
Okay.
My youngest has always been a bit malcoordinated and hypermobile. And I know it happens a lot for kids with neurodivergence. So I've had lots of parents, when I've mentioned things like this, they go, oh, yes, that's the similar thing. And things are all connected. Yeah. It's always affected her confidence in sports and all sorts of other things. So it was hard to keep her going to anything. And I know she likes dancing, but even when I signed her up for classes with people her age, she hated them because there was so much judgment and they'd all been dancing forever. So she felt like she was the worst. And who wants to be that, right? Well, I suggested she come to an adult beginners class and then I would sign up too.
Oh, brilliant.
And she agreed, and we've been going together every Friday evening. And you know what is the highlight of her week?
Oh, that's so cool.
She always comes out on a massive high. And now she's saying, if I keep going for the next 10 years, I'm going to be good.
What kind of dancing are you doing?
Contemporary dance.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love dance and I'm really not great. I'm fine. I salsa dance and things like that.
Yeah.
But contemporary dance, there's a lot of rolling on the floor.
Okay.
And a lot of... and so and I actually said to her, you know, the great thing is we're never going to really show this to other people because the truth is, when are you going to be doing some of these things? But it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
So anyway, I just said to her, yes, if you keep going, you will be good. And I think it's given her an anchor to something that she felt she was never going to be able to access, because I think the problem with schools and the system and the shame that's around it, you know, it's great to talk about the best. Yeah. It's great to try and strive to be the best. Yeah. And a lot of sports teams in schools, I don't know if you've experienced this but in my girls' schools, they had team A, team B, and below that, they would just ignore you. Yeah. And you were nothing. Yeah. And I think that's a tragedy, because we really should be encouraging people to be enjoying sports well beyond
moving their bodies.
Yes, exactly. So actually it's been brilliant. And I'm delighted to, you know, occasionally bruise my shoulders.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's brilliant. And to do it together is really beautiful.
It is so much fun. Yes.
I hate that. I hate the idea that, you know, kids, even when they're little, like 10-year-olds going to ballet or something, going and them feeling that it's too late for them. I mean, what is that about?
Yes. And you know what I must mention? I took her, so she's enjoying coming to talks with me and all sorts of things. I just book things that are free or that don't cost too much. And there was this great talk by a man called Emir Gamsis, who calls himself the chatty pianist, that we went to the other night.
Oh,
it's a great, yes. He's Turkish, former basketball player and athlete. Age 20, he decided to take up the piano.
Okay.
Within a year, he'd been accepted at a conservatoire.
Wow.
I know.
Crikey.
He showed a video of him playing 6 months into learning to play the piano, and he was playing a Chopin etude or whatever.
That's extraordinary.
I know. Anyway, the point is, it's never too late. I mean,
no. He sounds quite talented.
Yeah, I think he might be talented. Yes.
But still.
Yeah, because if I played the piano for 6 months, guaranteed I would not be playing at his level.
Maybe,
but yeah.
Depends how much effort you put in and how much you want it, doesn't it? That's the key.
And she's taking a lot more interest now in composers, because she's seen it live, and she called Schubert Scubbert. Because she read it.
Yeah. I mean, that's logical.
which brings me such joy. I love it. I love it.
Oh, brilliant.
Anyway, do you have a review for us? I
do. It's right here. I have a boy in year 7, and oh my, I found your show on this super helpful and found it super helpful. I also just listened to your last 2 shows and found this also very good. Hearing the girls say that year 7 is pretty much awful and that establishing a social circle is far more important to them than academic results. It relaxed me to understand that, as my boy is more interested in friends and girls than schoolwork. I've shared the link to your show on the school's Year 7 WhatsApp group for parents. I hope you get a few more listeners from it. Again, great show. Thank you for doing what you do. The girls too. I love hearing their views. Anamika, sorry
something
if I pronounced
that
wrong. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, that's wonderful. What a great idea. Share it on the WhatsApp group. Thank you. And I want to add, she did raise a question about looking at our kids' phones, because we talked about that. And one of the points my daughter made was, do not go through your child's phone without their permission. And actually, I think what my daughter had forgotten was that when she was younger, when I first started allowing her to have a phone, there was an agreement that at any point I could take the phone and look at what she was doing.
Yeah, that's age-related.
Yes, it's age-related. Yeah. And this mother said that actually when she did go through her son's phone, she found some things that really needed to be discussed with the school, and that they were very grateful. So I think it's a difficult one. Yeah. It's a difficult one.
Older, no.
As they get older, no. Right, I promised that we'd get to listener questions. I just want one literally that came through while I was walking the dogs before we came in here. Was I'm an avid listener of your podcasts and fully enjoy and appreciate listening to your advice. I have just searched your back episodes in case I missed one, but can't find anything that explicitly talks about teen underage sex with consent. After a recent chat with my 13-year-old daughter, I'm extremely concerned that she thinks she is ready to have sex with her boyfriend. He's 14 and they have been going out together for a few months.
Gosh.
They've only recently started kissing. I have been fairly relaxed about it until this recent conversation. And she has told me about a number of girls and boys in her year at school, which is year 9,
Gosh,
who have already had sex, so they say. and she's disregarding my points. Any tips, please? Well, I just want to say we have talked about this. I did extensive research because we had another listener with a similar problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into all the detail, but I will put the link in the podcast notes. I have emailed this lady back. And I basically found that the average age for having sex is 17. So it's way above this. I know somebody who's now an adult woman who said to me that she was pressured by her peer group into this sort of situation, to having sex when she was 14. And she just felt like there must be something wrong with her because she didn't enjoy it. She found it really uncomfortable and wasn't enjoyable. So and she said when she finally had a relationship at 17 where it was very loving, she went, that's what it's. So I think there's a lot to unpick there, but the actual episode covers a huge amount of this.
Yeah, the peer pressure.
I think the peer group, and I worry that we are now in a very porn-saturated environment, that our kids are not aware that that is not normal, or that there are people whose agenda is to blur the boundaries, and we need to be very mindful of that and keep being clear about why we say that 16 or 18 or whatever the legal age in your country has been put there in place. Yeah. And we're not trying to turn these children. Yes. And we're not, but also all the other things. So when I researched this, it was things to do with, well, is your child able to discuss and understand consent properly? Will they always use contraception when they have sex? Do they understand the full ramifications? And I really question whether a lot of kids this age would understand the full ramifications. And just thinking everybody else is doing is not a good reason for doing something.
And most of the ones who say they are probably aren't.
Correct. Exactly. So that's my penny's worth. That's our penny's worth.
Yes.
So I wish you luck with that. I hope the episode helps you. Let us know what you think. Yeah. So here's another question that was asked. Help, I need your advice. I'm a mum of 3 girls. I have noticed my 9-year-old has become very self-conscious around me. And when I try to talk to her, there is no engagement whatsoever. And she's clearly very uncomfortable. I believe it's related to body changes, which my 11-year-old is not yet experiencing. I've made numerous attempts to give her space and discuss things, including writing notes, which she totally ignored, hanging around, folding washing near her, that sort of like lurking. She's just not opening up. And she said, actually, we're a really open family and we always talk about things and we're not really body conscious. So I don't want her to feel isolated, especially considering she's only 9. And I don't think her friends are at the same stage. Please help. What do you think? What have you got any thoughts, Susie?
I just feel like I want to give her a big hug.
I do too.
And the mum.
I do too.
That sounds really hard. I mean, without knowing what the issue is, it's hard to sort of say what a good thing to do is, isn't it? But like, just keep being there for her. Like, maybe do something with her instead of, kids are amazing, aren't they? They pick up on our agendas. And even when we're hovering with the washing or doing that, they know why we're doing that.
Is it? Yes.
And if they don't want to talk, then, oh God, mum's here again. Potentially. I mean, I don't know the kid, but, doing something like an activity that she enjoys instead, and just, deliberately not talking about it for a while. Because she's probably got her antennae out.
Yeah, so I mentioned this to my daughter and she said, well, maybe back off. Yeah. Which is a standard answer for her. Yeah. And she said perhaps she just doesn't want to talk about it. I said, that's interesting, because I'm not one of those people who tends to back off. No. Which is probably why my daughter had said that. And then another suggestion she came up with was, she said, well, maybe she needs to include the older daughter and talk generically about puberty. And I thought, actually, that might be a really useful suggestion. And the reason I say that is the known age of the start of puberty, onset of puberty, has actually lowered. It might be either the 9 and the 11-year-old girl, or even the younger girl, and it's worth her sitting down and actually having a really warm, fun evening where she actually creates packs which are explaining what's in the pack for puberty pack, and talking with all of them and saying, actually, what I've been reading is that puberty comes on much younger nowadays, because the problem is if it's happening to you at 9 and nobody else around you is experiencing that, you're going to feel like you're not normal.
Yeah.
And that's the worry.
And we have to be really careful introducing topics like that. And it depends on their relationship, doesn't it? Which sounds like I'm sure it's really beautiful. The mum sounds lovely and very caring and really, sensitive.
Yeah.
But there might be lots of shame in it for her
Yes.
if she feels, that she's different, especially if her older sister isn't experiencing the same. So, that has to be allowed out as well, doesn't it?
But the reason I thought this was actually quite a nice suggestion was that I think we have to normalize this.
Yeah,
and
which is
all
let
of
the
these
shame
girls,
out.
all of these girls there will either be, the start, the middle, the end. I don't know where they're going to be in terms of the kids in their class going through this. And it's a really uncomfortable phase particularly for girls, because people start looking at you differently as well. People comment,
and
which
if you're
they don't.
young and you're the only one,
Yes.
first, that must be hard.
So I do think that it might be worth, as she's got 3 girls, having that open conversation and just saying, I want you girls to all understand this is absolutely, there's a range. Your body will be on its own cycle, and whenever it happens will be completely normal. And here are the things that I want you to all have packs, and I want you to support other girls. So I want you to be, all of you, agents for other girls. So if you see that they need some support, say, oh, this is normal. So that you can sort of turn it into a positive. That's one suggestion. And with my girls, I created little period packs and things where I had little stuff in them so they could then go to when they wanted to. There's a very good book by Osborne that's for this sort of age group as well. And I'll put that in the podcast link.
Yeah, there's lots of things you can do. I made a little box for my daughter.
Did you? It's just to make it something special, and actually having a little book that's nothing to do with periods, but that's a really warm. I got Anne of Green Gables, just a beautiful book that they could read.
It depends on the kid, though, as to how they take stuff, doesn't it? And she'll know that better than anyone. She'll know. She will know. With her, I'm trying to put some things out there so that parents who will listen to it will think, "Oh, I could do that." I, as my kids have pointed out on the podcast before, is I'm a front footer. I'm one of those people who they laughed at me because when it came to pornography and masturbation and things, I would just come out with it, and they were like, don't talk about that. But I just do. Same here.
And they're just like, mortifying. No. But actually what I tend to do is I tend to just if that were my daughter, because of my daughters, I would actually take her to one side and I would deliver up what I was seeing. And I would just say, I am seeing this. I'm seeing you withdrawing. I'm wondering whether it's this. I want to talk to you directly about it because I don't want you to think that either I don't care or that I'm going to overreact or that there's something strange about what's happening to you. I want you to know from day one that you can ask me anything and that what you're going through is completely normal.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way of approaching it. Really beautiful. Like mirroring, I'm seeing this.
Yes. Yes.
What is this your experience?
Yes. So that you have broken that spell because even if she's feeling uncomfortable and doesn't want to talk about it, you can say that and then you can say, you can talk about it now. You can never talk about it with me again. I don't mind, but I want, because I think, I remember my daughter once saying to me something that's resonated with me ever since, where she said, most kids don't tell their parents things either because they think they don't care or because they think their parents will overreact.
Or tell them off,
And we need to go right in there and say, just so you are very clear, I do care.
I do. I see you, and when you're ready, I'm here. Yeah.
So that's, I don't know, anything else?
No, I think that's a beautiful way of approaching it. And I'm sure, she may have already done that in the notes that she sent, but, if her daughter knows she's there and she understands it, she will come when she's ready.
But I also think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the notes can be really useful. And I remember back to our episode talking about bereavement and how we grieve. And that actually the way that we grieve, if we don't talk about our beloved, if we don't talk about how we're feeling about it, because we think, as adults, we need to hide our feelings because we don't want to upset our kids. What can actually happen is they take it as, we don't talk about this. And we can inadvertently make it into something that's not a conversation we have. Whereas I think sometimes if we front foot it and say, I'm feeling this, I'm thinking this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You give them permission to make it a really open, honest area to talk.
Yeah, even if it's, oh my God, Mum, stop.
Yes. You go, oh, sorry. I always just go, oh, sorry. Okay, I overstepped it. I'm embarrassed. But, I didn't want you to think this. Here's another one. This came through on the text message app that you can find in the podcast notes. The thing with that, I've got to remind you all again, I can't see you, so I can't respond directly to you. So if you want me to actually email you back, use the email, which is teenagersuntangled.com. Otherwise, it's absolutely fine to you, or, social media. I respond to people on social media, and you can talk to Susie as well, but I can't see the who it is that's messaged me. So it still comes through though. So what this person said was, could you cover how to help your teenage daughter when they have no friends and are isolated?
Oh.
And how to cope with it as a parent.
Yeah.
I am so worried about my 13-year-old daughter that I can't sleep and I feel sick when I think about how lonely she is.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question, isn't it? Because, and we've talked about this before, like when our kids are struggling and we feel something is painful, that's one part of it, isn't it? But then it's our own reaction and we very quickly spiral depending on our background. But that is actually a whole other side to it. But usually it's enmeshed because we don't realize it's happening. I mean, just a silly example of that. I was driving with my daughter. She was driving and we were late. She was going to work experience and we were having to drive through Croydon and it was really stressful and it was her first day and she was insisting on driving and you can imagine the scene, the fire engines going past and I mean she's test ready, but still. Yes. And I was massively stressing and trying to read the navigation and all of that and trying to stay calm so that she didn't, drive badly. We were almost there. So we're almost there. Oh, you're going to make it. It's going to be fine. And I went, God, my nervous system is absolutely wrecked. And is yours? And she went, no, I'm just really focusing on the road. And I was like, it was like a light bulb moment. Oh my goodness. So basically, and we joked about it, so basically I'm taking all the stress and you're fine. And she went, yeah, I think so.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my goodness, I think I do that regularly. It was
we
quite
are
a
the emotional trash cans for our kids.
And I thought I wasn't because I thought I was more aware than that, but clearly I'm not. But I'm just relating to this lady's question. We spiral in stuff and often it is absolutely relevant and it is their pain we're feeling. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's our own. So I think first port of call is to sit with our own pain in it and work out, okay, is that hers or is it mine? Or, what is my old story about? Maybe she doesn't, but it's possible she has a story around feeling lonely. Maybe she has a story about, worrying about not having friends or something in her background.
Yes.
Or I think most people's fear is of being lonely, isn't it? It's the biggest fear we have. So maybe that's at the root of the pain that she's spiraling in potentially.
And we catastrophize as parents. So what we do is we take one particular situation. We think she has no friends. She's 13. Yeah. She's never going to have friends.
She's going to be an old
her
cat
life
lady.
is going to be ruined. Yes, we do this, particularly at night.
In a nanosecond.
Yes.
She's on her sofa surrounded by cats or something, I'm not saying that's what she's doing. So differentiating what's my pain and being brave and sitting with that and trying to unpack that as best we can. And then we can return to, okay, this is my daughter's situation. As you say, in this moment, she hasn't got any friends. What does that actually look like in this moment? And how is she in it? Is she really struggling? And is this really painful for her? Is it awful? And how can I help her through that? Or is it just a phase for her? And actually, maybe it's not so deep for her. But nobody knows that nobody will know that more than her mother.
Yeah, and actually, we haven't got enough information, so we don't know whether there's her daughter's coming home crying every day saying I have no friends, or whether. But I love your point because actually, before we can help anybody else, we really need to ground ourselves, and we can't. If we are spiraling and falling apart, we are absolutely no use to our child because they will sense that when they want to talk to us about it. And the thing I've learned most is that I have to be able to cope with whatever emotion my child is going through. And just be able to recognize it and say, that sounds really hard.
Yeah.
But what we need to do, this is the big switch that I found really tricky, is the changing gears. And the changing gears from when they were little, things would go wrong. And my girls have talked about this on the episodes. When things go wrong, I can create a play date and then they get together with the friends and it's all fixed. Now that they're teenagers, that is not possible anymore. We are not doing this. And we slowly have to understand and develop our ability to support our kids in fixing the problems for themselves or finding solutions for themselves.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is we want to fix things immediately. And our brain is on the problem because it's going, okay, I've got to fix this. I've got to fix this. There must be a fix. We are not the people who can fix the problem.
No.
That's the hardest thing to get our heads around.
There's nothing more painful than watching our children feel pain and be in pain and be in a situation. And we have to become the masters of holding space for them and being a safe space for them and nudging them if they need nudging or just holding them if they need holding. And we all have our own narratives. None of us is a blank piece of paper when we become parents.
No.
We all have our own history, our own baggage. And that is, those are usually sort of background noise narratives that we're not even aware of. So if we have, for example, a narrative that, I mustn't, be lonely or a fear of, if they fail an exam, or what is that going to mean? If that's our fear, we all have these things. If we're not aware of them, those are running the show. They are guiding our behaviour. They're guiding what we tell our kids, what we fear for our kids. So we kind of have to be brave and find out what they are, unpack them, and then we can hold a more neutral, safe space for our kids.
I love that. And it's really interesting.
Hard.
No, it's really interesting because I have been there. And it's funny because I brought it up with one of my daughters and she said, yeah, that one's not for me because I had friends. They just weren't very good friends.
Okay.
And she said, my sister had no friends and she didn't. At 13, she had no friends at her school. And it was, but that then made me think, well, here's the thing. Is it better to have friends who aren't really your friends or to be looking at it saying, well, I need to find my tribe. And this is one of the other problems. When kids get to this age, there's this desperate need to fit in.
Yes.
And this desperate need to be in some lifeboat. It doesn't matter what lifeboat it is. They don't want to be in the shark-infested waters. We've talked about this before in terms of friendships. So sometimes what they will do is they will try and get into a lifeboat or a friendship which doesn't really suit them. And they will be shifting their own needs in order to fit in, which also isn't great. So one way you could look at this is you could say, here you have a daughter who has no friends, but actually you could say maybe what she's doing is she's not trying to fit in with something that doesn't work for her.
Or she's in a group that are being mean to her, for example, which would be just to have a group.
Yeah. So there is that. There's also, so one of the problems my daughter had was she's so bright that for her, as she became out of being quite young, her intellect accelerated very rapidly and she found it very hard to understand and have fun and relate to kids who were kids. It just sort of, to start with, she was really, really fun and popular and everything. And then it's sort of, as the puberty hit, she was like, oh, why are they doing these things? And she couldn't understand. I stepped in to be her friend. When she was going through this, we talked every single night at length. We'd laugh about things. I would organise things for us to do together. We're not their friend. No. We always say that you are their parent, but there's no harm in stepping in as a friend in those times when they need a bridge. And they need to feel that they're not alone.
We can be friends, but we're also not friends. Like
we're not their friend.
But we can also be friends.
Well, we can be their best friend. They can't be our best friend. So we can't expect them to take on any of our needs, but we can provide them somewhere where they can laugh, somewhere they can explore their companionship, all that stuff. So that's something that this mother can be doing in order to support her child. I also think there's a very strong need to understand that neurodiverse kids can often stumble when it comes to friendships. And I don't know whether her daughter has any neurospicy parts to her, but she could. Because I have noticed that where I have neurodiverse, couple, 2 mainly, who are neurodiverse. And there are times when they misread stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it can come out in different ways. So they'll have a very spiky profile. So some of them are really emotionally capable, but they're not good at reading signals from other people and understanding what's going on in certain situations. And that can be really exacerbated at this age. So there are lots and lots of things going on. I don't know any of this. And it may be that it's just a very, very toxic setup in that school and that she needs to find other groups that she can and just say to her, look for your tribe.
Yeah,
what are the things that
activities.
joining
Boys are
other
really
clubs
good at that. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Boys are really good at doing activities, and within the activity they find their tribe.
Yeah.
Whereas girls, it's less activity based generally, not always, but generally. So maybe girls can be encouraged to have to be a bit more activity based, do something that you enjoy doing, and then you'll probably find people that
like those things.
You, yeah.
Yes.
And then you only have to have a couple of friends. You don't have to have millions.
Yes.
It's hard though. But really having a look at what is triggering us in that. But like you say, if she's coming home and she's really upset about it and is crying about it, then obviously that is her own pain, and she's no mother would want to witness that, of course. But if the kid isn't so bothered by it, then maybe it's some of the mother's old pain points for her own friendship stuff. Or we say that teenagers want to belong, but we all want to belong. Yes. And it's only when we get older that we maybe get less attached to that. But even now, it's not nice being left out, is it? Like nobody likes that. So there is this sort of human need to belong, and when we see that our kids are not belonging, that brings stuff up in us which is really uncomfortable.
I think that's really spot on.
That's worth looking at.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And I think that when we can manage to calm our own system and think that stuff through and understand what's happening with ourselves, we can also then be useful. So we can sit and help them try to think through strategies for managing the situation they're in. So thinking about, how does your school day work? When are the times when you can go to clubs? What sorts of clubs are there? I mean, one of the problems I had were that, a lot of the school clubs are to do with certain sports. And if you're not in the top teams, then, that's no use to you. And I do find the girls' things are quite narrow. Yeah. If you're not dancing or you're not. Teenager. Yeah. And actually I found that my older girls, as they've blossomed and grown, they're all doing really interesting things that were never on the table for them when they were at that age. So one of the things that Dr. Rebecca Winthrop talks about in The Disengaged Teen is that we are the missing part of the puzzle in terms of those interests and having agency. And schools can be a very confining environment if they're only offering X, Y, Z and your daughter is interested in B. So what we as parents can also be doing is thinking outside of the school box rather than focusing all our energy on that, and thinking, what other things are there outside of school that I could just be exposing her to?
Yeah.
Like my daughter's just taken up fishing recently, or, talks that she could go to, or jujitsu, or just other things that are separate and not necessarily in the girl box.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant advice. And also, if you're doing more stuff, then you're less sitting around noticing that you have less friends.
I think that's right. Yes. And it's less important. And some kids don't actually really want a lot of friends. Some really do. And that will help you understand what it is because maybe they're okay. Maybe they're okay. I don't know. No, we don't know. We don't know that. And one thing I will say is the girl who had no real friends at 13 and found it very harrowing, she now has really solid, deep, close friendships and is flourishing. So it's never, It just takes time, and this is one of the worst times for this, I think.
Because the clamour to belong is so strong.
So strong.
They're
all panicking. They're all anxious. They all feel like there's a lot of power struggles going on.
And I think as parents, we, like if our kid is thriving socially, we go, oh, thank goodness. Phew. They function, they fit in, like, because we're also affected by it. Yeah. So we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, I love that, Susie. That's a really good point. I think that's pretty much that. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so.
One more thing. I think don't make them think that it's your job to fix it. Yeah. That's another thing. I think actually there's a tendency in the society we have now, which has shifted so much away from the way our parents were, which were hands off. It's your problem. You get on with it. And I was very much like, okay, I'll do everything. Where we feel we're almost giving messages to our kids that we will fix everything.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that we can help them by coaching them. Yeah. We cannot fix their problems, and we have to be actually really clear about that.
And I think what we can do, I have got something to add to that, it's kind of linked to what I just said about looking at our own stuff, because it's always about looking at our own stuff, in my opinion, is looking at our own fear. because at the bottom of all our worries and concerns about our kids are our own fears, and very often we're not quite sure what they are. They're just the ones that come and squeeze our solar plexus and go and we go, oh, that doesn't feel very nice. How can I fix my kid to get rid of that feeling? And sometimes our fears are nothing to do with our kids, and sometimes they are. And I know for my kids, who are also, you've mentioned that your kids neuro spicy. I have 3 who have various different things, and I've been thinking a lot about that recently, and I think it makes such a difference. We know that already, but we have to kind of I worry about them. They don't go through the school system maybe particularly smoothly at some points because it's not designed for them. And how can I help them in that and really properly help them and kind of allow my own fears, which are, from my generation and my parents, of like, oh, you need to do this in a particular way. So it requires a huge amount of awareness of our own patterns. Our fears will pop up immediately because they're so quick. They're survival things. So it could be a fear of, or if you don't go through the academic system like in inverted commas normal person, what does that mean? And even though in my head I'm going, it's fine. If I have an old fear, that's going to come up first.
Yes.
And we need to be brave actually and unpack those things. And it's not always very comfortable. But if we don't do that, then we can't create that space that is just holding for them. And then they are also picking up on our fears, and because we project them, even when we think we're not.
Talking about education, my daughter, who left school for a year at 16, and she's been working and doing her own personal study, she's almost evangelical about pointing out that we don't have to be on this freight train, that we can. And I did that. I did fashion design for a year, came back into academics, not because I even understood how academics was going to help me. It just felt like, oh, this wasn't quite the right thing for me. I'm going to try something else. And our path through life does not have to be a straight line. No. In fact, it will never be a straight line. No. And this idea that there's a pot of gold at the end of the academic rainbow and that's the only way to go is being completely destroyed at the moment anyway. So I think we have to be much more comfortable with being creative about how our kids will go through life and trusting that they will find it. But we have to give them a bit more of agency in this.
And we have to not just say it, but we have, maybe that's a better way of saying it. We can be aware of that and we can believe it. But if at the underlying it, our own fears are still shouting and going, yeah, that's the right way. Yeah, but what? Yeah, but the ones that wake you up in the night and go, oh, yeah, but are you sure? Are you sure? Yes. Like we have to unpack them as well. Yeah. Otherwise, we can't really be there 100% for them.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful thought to end on. Right. If you found this useful, please share it now with at least one other person. Go on, WhatsApp group. The whole school WhatsApp group. You can reach Susie at
www.amindful-life.co.uk.
I'm on teenagersuntangled.com. You can message me there, or using social media. My email address is teenagersuntangled@gmail.com. Tell me what's worrying you, and I'll try to get you an answer. Yeah. That's it for now. Have a great week.
Bye for now.
Pip.